Conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about a new subject, something that's a little bit different. Um, but I think it's definitely in conjunction to the whole atmosphere of this channel. And today, we're going to be talking about gaslighting and manipulation. And before I even get into this subject, something I had a question about something which I thought was very interesting. With all of these subjects that adults are pretty much involved in right now, a lot of people are seeking knowledge, they're seeking for the truth, whether it be on the good side or the bad side. With all of these things, in regards to gaslighting and manipulation, you have to wonder, why isn't these things taught in school? Why aren't these subjects brought up in school? Because I believe that, all of these subjects, no matter if we're talking about narcissism, gaslighting, manipulation, astrology, religion, you name it, these are the fundamental skills that people need in their lives, I believe, in order to be functioning, healthy human beings. And the unfortunate part about this all is when you're not aware of individuals that have these particular characteristics, excuse my French, but it fucks you up. Sometimes it fucks you up for a long, long time. So you have to wonder, why aren't these things taught? Why are people finding out about these things only when it's too late? Or where they're deep into some shit that they can't really get out of? So anyway, I just had to say that and get that off my chest. But today we're going to be talking about gaslighting and manipulation. And the reason why I decided to talk about this is because I've been listening and watching a couple of YouTubers. I have some favorite YouTubers out there that I listen and I watch. And YouTubers that I watch, it's a huge, large group of people. And what I found so interesting and made me dive deep into this is that a lot of people within that group, um, or within this quote unquote, whatever the title is of these people that are surrounded by these people are now coming out with videos, exposed videos. Um, there's a lot of people coming out the woodworks and saying that they've been duped, they've been conned, they've been scammed, they've been manipulated, they've been gaslighted. And this happened to them quite some time ago. But due to the fact that they was gaslighted, they was manipulated, they was scammed, they was conned, they were embarrassed to come out and tell the truth. Reason why they were embarrassed, and they almost had some kind of fear too, with coming out and exposing these quote unquote charismatic leaders, is because so many people love these particular individuals, which we're going to be talking about in a minute. And when you're talking about gaslighting and manipulation and narcissism, the truth of the matter is these people are so well skilled at their craft of deceiving people that they don't just deceive one or two people or two handfuls of people. Sometimes these people are so skillful that they're able to fool thousands and thousands and sometimes a stadium filled of people. And the reason I believe that a lot of people are unable to see these charismatic manipulators for who they are is because I think the energy of being surrounded by so many other groups of people who love these people makes them question their sanity, makes them question their gut, makes them question their feelings as to why they really can't get with this particular person. Only when it's too late and when a lot of people come out, they're like, okay, I know I felt like this around this person, but I couldn't put a finger on it. But I knew something wasn't right. And then you hear later, down the line, this person was unfortunately a sexual abuser, um, a con artist, a scam artist, a manipulator, a deceitful person who showed you one way of life, but in the dark, they was doing something different. So I think a lot of people, they don't really identify a manipulator, which is a master manipulator, is because these people are charismatic. Okay. Master manipulators are charmers. They say all the right words. But unfortunately, after being scammed, after being conned, after being manipulated, the victim or the person who has been duped by this particular person, you'll find that their words rarely match up to their actions. And you'll see that they often have a trail of unfulfilled promises where they're saying one thing and they're doing another. They lie about where they're going all the time, only to find out that these people, they're met or they went somewhere different from where they tell you. So when you hear about gaslighting, when I first heard about it, the thing that I automatically thought about was um in my so-called hip hop era. Like, I'm into hip hop. I'm into the younger generation. And in my generation, when we talk about gas, it's usually when somebody says, "Oh, don't get gassed," or you gas them up, or um he gassed you, she gassed you. And what that means is they made you feel like you were more than what you were trying to perceive. For instance, people who are master manipulators and charmers, these are the type of people who will approach you and they will tell you things that you probably never heard of, or they will tell you things that fresh and brand new, and it makes you feel good. So they'll tell you like, "Oh my goodness, you're so beautiful," or "You have so, beautiful eyes," or they'll tell you something that will trigger you, and then you become addicted to the charmer because you're not used to hearing those things, or you're hearing things that make you feel good. So this is how they get in. They start telling you things that are like a little bit overboard than what the average person will tell you. So anyway, let's get back into it. So these people, never believe them. Okay, never believe a manipulator or somebody who has been identified as gaslighting others. Are deceitful, they're liars, and they always flip-flop. Um, these people are very gregarious. They're always in folk face. And these type of people, you normally see them like on stage. These people are usually like speakers, not all of them, but a lot of them, are quote unquote leaders of, small groups, small communities. They may have a few people that are following them. And these people are so good at what they do that these people manipulate people even out of their comfort zone, to the point where there's a situation going on right now, which I'm not going to even mention any names. But there's one particular man who's a charmer, and his game is so tight that he's actually manipulated these people to sell all their furniture, um, to quit their jobs, to get a passport, and to pretty much abandon their family and friends, and to now be under his government of manipulation. And the sad part about this all is that usually when a person has found themselves selling their furniture, detaching themselves from their family that actually has genuine love for them, these people are, sometimes unfortunately they're in a very bad state, a very bad mental state. They may be suffering from depression. They may have went through a situation that was traumatic. So they're looking for the connection with someone else who is going to love them, coddle them it again. So these types of people usually are easily manipulated by a master manipulator. Okay. And believe it or not, manipulators, they know who to go after. They know who to look for. This by observing people, or they'll scan through people quickly for certain weaknesses that that person may be suffering from. And when you're dealing with this kind of individual, they are experts at finding out people's weaknesses, and they start working on those weaknesses. Okay? You have to understand that these people are inconsistent and often change their stance on opinions and ideas. So, for example, they may go from being extremely talkative to very quiet. And the reason why they go from being very talkative to extremely quiet is because when they become quiet, they are listening now and they're trying to find weaknesses within that person. So, you want to know how to avoid being duped or getting played, basically. You know how you avoid getting duped or getting played if this has happened, or if you feel like you're in this situation? To detach yourself from whatever kind of emotional connection that you may have with this suspected manipulator. And you have to really thoroughly investigate and talk to people who they don't recommend. See, a manipulator is really good at their game because they'll recommend people to you, but they'll recommend you to other people who they're currently manipulating. So you're never really going to hear the hardcore truth about the master manipulator. So again, if you want to avoid being duped or getting played, you have to thoroughly investigate and talk and research and dig deep in regards to these people. And you have to understand manipulators have a psychopathic, sociopathic tendency. So only when it's too late or you're too deep within, you won't realize that you're being manipulated. And most narcissists intent everyone they come in contact with. And once again, they do have the biggest the biggest charismatic about them that you have never met. This is why these people stand out. This is why these people are leaders. This is why these people are well liked. It's because they have that charm about them that the average person doesn't have. But you know what? One thing that I've learned from my observation is that these people, they don't usually change up. They usually use the same words, the same lines, and actions with everyone. So their style doesn't change much. And you won't know this until you ask people who have came in contact with the manipulator. You may often hear stories from people who have been scammed or used or been treated the same exact way. Then why you hear the same stories, you hear the same complaints, and you hear the same grievances is because manipulators don't change up. They do is they perfect ways and actions. Trust me when I tell you this. These are the types of people who use the same exact words on everybody they come across. So when you're dealing with a master manipulator, these are the type of people who, if they're trying to lure sex or get sex from various different women, they may tell women the same exact lines like, "Oh, I love you. I don't know what I'll do without you. I want to have a family. I want you." So all these words that I'm telling you, once the master manipulator is discovered, guarantee that whoever is in that group of manipulation has been told those same exact words. And that's how you know, and that's how you can identify that you're dealing with a master manipulator. See, master manipulators, they have the gift to gab. But the reason why they have the gift to gab is because usually what they say is repetitive. They don't usually change up. What they do is they perfect their game. They become the master at mind manipulation. And when you're dealing with a master manipulator, you have to understand that these people, they go out hunting for people to manipulate. And everything that they do starts on the mental until they can soon gain control of you to do things on the physical. So, first it's the mental, then it's the physical. And whether that is exchange of sex, possession of material, being swindled out of money, robbed by sending people money through scams. These people are so good at what they do that, people have even like pretty much signed off their property to these people. And you know what the sad part about it all is that I actually knew of people who did this. I knew people who actually went on a hunt looking for old people, looking for people who were in desperate situations, looking for people who were lonely. And these people, they were scammed. They were pretty much overgassed up. And they heard words that they've never heard before. They felt things that they never felt before. And when you're in that situation where you're hearing words that you never heard before, when you're feeling things that you never felt in a long time, you become vulnerable and you really start believing that person. And even if you find out later that that person was no good and they were a manipulator and they've done this to so many people, The unfortunate part about it is that a lot of victims, they become attached level, and they feel almost sad because they have to detach from the manipulator because of the emotions and the things that the master manipulator is able to trigger within certain individuals. And when you're dealing with this kind of individual, they have certain techniques they use on various different people, which will include strangers, people that they're trying to form relationships with, new acquaintances, um, and sometimes people foreign close to them. But they're all treated with different tactics. And the most hardest to identify are people who are close to people who are master manipulators. See, manipulators, you have to understand that even though they say the right words, they fluff up emotions within people. At the end of the day, they do lack empathy. And they need this trait. They need to lack empathy so they can feel strong, or the lack of guilt when it comes down to backstabbing, lying, deceit, and scamming people. You have to lack empathy in some way when you're at this stage in your life where you're ready to scam an old person out of their retirement money. You have to lack empathy when you're such a master manipulator and you know that that person, has, let's say they have $100 in their account, and you as a master manipulator, you go to them and you take 95 of their dollars and you leave them with only $5, and you walk away with no feelings of guilt. You don't give a damn if that person, doesn't eat that night. See, when you're at the level of lacking empathy for others and not putting yourselves in other people's shoes, you're a master manipulator. And master manipulators are self absorbed, they're conceited, they walk around like they're the shit, or they show off on people that they believe are not up to their standards. And you know what? All in all, it's a reflection of them in some way. Because if you're willing to go out there and manipulate people out of their property, manipulate people out of their savings, promise things that you know that you cannot deliver, you have to be a disgusting piece of shit. And on my list, a disgusting piece of shit to do this to people. And the unfortunate part about it is that what's going on in a particular community, which I won't even put them on blast because they're already going through hell right now, is that it's coming out that a lot of people were so duped out of their money that they lost everything. And you know why they lost everything is because they didn't identify that the person that they were dealing with was a manipulator. And at the end of the day, the manipulator didn't want nothing from them in regards to love and affection, honesty. What they wanted from them was either physical or financial. And that was their goal. That was their target. That's what they were after. There was nothing in between. Any emotions or anything that may have been conjured up in regards to connecting with the master manipulator, they detached themselves from that connection. And the reason why they're able to play on people's emotions like this is because the victim, they can't discern. They don't know what the target is. They don't realize that the master manipulator from the beginning when they got in contact with them, that master manipulator was already looking at the end result. They already saw way ahead what they was gonna get out of this person, and they wasn't gonna stop until they get it. And that's when you know that you're dealing with a master manipulator. You're dealing with a manipulator. Everything that's fucked up, small. So you may experience small setbacks, small losses, and when it really gets ugly, you can even experience illness as a manipulator, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know that people were actually getting sick and going through health problems when they were dealing with these types of individuals. How deep this shit is. That and I mean, it's one thing to lose money. It's one thing to have small setbacks, lose property, lose dreams, but now you're losing your health. And you know why people are losing their health and they're getting sick is because they've been duped. They've been robbed, they've been scammed, okay? They've been mentally manipulated. They have went through mental abuse. And when you're dealing with mental abuse, when you're dealing with narcissism, when you're dealing with darkness, everything starts in the mind. And once somebody could fuck with your mind, they fuck with your spirit. And once your spirit starts to be abused, you physically get sick. So again, everything starts on the mental. Then it goes through your spiritual. And then only when it's too late, people start to see it on the physical. Funny because I had a conversation with a lady today, and I know this lady for quite some time. She was very quiet. She never really, came out and said what was going on. And you know what? Another thing too, people need to stop living. You know what? I talk about darkness on my channel. I do. But you know what? People need to stop living in darkness. Stop living in darkness. Stop hiding. Stop lying to yourself. Start talking about these things. Come out, release the spiritual baggage that these master manipulators give you to carry around that nobody can see. Don't hide it. Don't gloss it. Don't put sugar on shit. Tell people what you're going through so people can help you. And I think that's why people who have found themselves involved with a master manipulator, I think they're so broken down spiritually, mentally, and financially is because they didn't really start talking about it until it was damn near too late. And they pretty much lost everything. And when you lose everything, including your mind, your sanity, your spirit, your outlook on life, to live for. So you're like, fuck it. Let me just go out and tell everybody what's going on. But why wait until that point to let everybody know what's going on when you could let people know what's going on before it's too late for them? Why not save people from this? And this is why I don't understand why these lessons are not taught in school. I don't understand it. But if you're listening to this broadcast and you know about massive manipulation, you know about narcissism, you know about certain things, do your family a favor, do your friends a favor, school them, let them know this is what's up. I know everybody wants to look for a bright, sunny day. Everybody wants to look on the positive side of life, and that's great. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of people are not operating on that level. So many people are left with heartbreak, disappointment, embarrassment, setbacks, anger. It's because nobody's talking about these things. Nobody wants to talk about getting swindled out of money and being robbed and being scammed because they're embarrassed to let people know that they were so gullible, so naive, that they trusted certain people with things they never trusted even their close relatives with. And that's the sad part, and that's the most embarrassing part about it all. And people really need to watch out for people who say that they care and they love them, but they do the opposite. And when you're dealing with a master manipulator, you got to know that they're very, very good with words. They work on words. They're the master of words. They're the master of the mind. They know people. Okay? But you got to watch a master manipulator because these are the types of people say one thing, but they always do the opposite. And that's where the gaslighting comes in. See, when you hear about gaslighting, the thing that I discovered too is that these people are tricky. Like for instance, like you could, just be hanging out with a master manipulator. Um, oh, look. They always want you to look somewhere. They always want you to look. And see, that's where they start off too. They start off with that. They'll start off saying, "Oh, look, did you see that? Look over there." And see, once they start telling you to look and do this and do that, and they see that they could start controlling you and start moving your body and you're moving your mind and moving your head in different ways, that's when they know if they can start doing you that on the small level, then gradually it will increase and increase. And then over time, you'll find yourself like those people basically quit their jobs, sold all their furniture, bought a passport, and disconnected themselves from society, their friends, and their family. That's how it starts off subtle, sweet, and soft. So beware of people that you're around who, for some reason or another, you're talking to them, and before you know it, they're telling you to look. Look, they always want to grab your attention from something. So you could be reading books, you could be reading a book, you can be listening to music, you could be watching a show, you can be doing various different things. And when you're around a master manipulator, want you to concentrate on what you're concentrating on. They want you to disengage, disconnect, and connect to what they want you to focus on. But you got to understand when you're dealing with a master manipulator, they're going to turn on you one day. And when they turn, they will fight dirty. They will fight dirty by insulting you. They will use information that you have given them against you. And they never, ever, ever want to admit to their wrongdoing. They always want to highlight what you did or how you made them feel, but it's never what they did. Deny words, they will deny actions that they've done that they're fully aware of, but they act naive or they act like it's no big deal. And they do this so they can confuse people and they make people question themselves. And of when you're dealing with a master manipulator is that they will, talk about things that you've expressed, that you've clearly told them that you no longer wanted to talk about. And even if, they start bringing up things that they know that are sensitive to you, they'll still bring it up because they know that's going to trigger some type of emotion. And then before you know it, you're talking to these people about your feelings, you're talking about disappointment. And this is why when you're dealing with a massive manipulator, especially with women, not so much of men, because to me, I think men got it, got it together in this department. But I think a lot of women make a mistake and they leave one bad relationship and they go into a brand new relationship. and they find themselves dealing with the same kind of character person that they've dealt with in the past. And the reason for this is because they always bring their dirty laundry with them in a new relationship. Always bringing their dirty laundry. And this is why, a lot of men, they give other men, advice, and they say, you know what, when you're around women, don't say nothing. Be quiet. Women love to talk. And when you're dealing with a woman who loves to talk, you'll end up finding out things about her that you can use against her. And you can manipulate certain feelings. So a lot of women, they go into relationships and they say, oh, he cheated on me before, or he treated me like shit, and this and that. And before you know it, they're talking about all the disgusting things that they've been through, not realizing that they're sitting in front of a master manipulator who will use those same weaknesses, those same defeats, those same not comfortable, and do those same exact actions to that person. And then the woman is like, I can't believe he's done the same thing to me. Why do I keep bumping into the same man? You know why you keep bumping into the same man who does the same thing? Is because you told the new man about what you've been through with your last man, and he knows what you are going to tolerate. Knows how you've been through some shit for a long time, and you didn't come out of that. And that person was able to receive certain things from you. And when he or she was ready to discard, it was disconnected and they moved on. Give me a break. As usual, when I do these broadcasts, I can never just, it's never a smooth ride. I always have people disturbing me for some reason. So just give me about a minute and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. And unfortunately, I don't even know where I left off. Yeah, I was just saying that, when you're dealing with a master manipulator, again, with the charm, it's always, I can identify a master manipulator now because I know the information. And how do you identify them? And you can't really judge everybody like this, but then in some ways you have to start judging to avoid being duped. And what you'll notice about a master manipulator or a con artist is that they're nicer than the average person. They have this charm, that person. They make you feel certain ways that are more than the average person. And it's very, very important to do these things in order to gain your trust, in order to start to trigger or to start to invoke certain emotions that are pretty much dormant inside of you that you didn't even know that you had within. You know what? A master manipulator doesn't even have to work. And the reason why they don't have to work is because if they can work on a person's mind, they can pretty much have other people work for them. A lot of master manipulators have money, lots of money, because they're able to connect with people who will pretty much give them everything that they want without them ever getting their hands dirty. Um, so anyway, so yeah, so like I was saying about the women, a lot of women, unfortunately, they get connected with men, who are the same type of men. And I believe that the reason why they're getting connected with these men is because they're quickly, expressing their weaknesses. They're quickly, expressing the issues that they've went through in their past, not realizing that these are weaknesses that, of course, everybody has weaknesses, everybody has a past, everybody has some shit that they went through. But when you're first meeting with people or when you're trying to develop a relationship, it may not be a good idea put it out on the table like that. You may have to just have some decorum about yourself and lay back, sit back, way back, and play the game as the manipulator. Um, so despite the fact that people after a while become aware of a manipulator, personality and persona, even after people have gotten robbed, have gotten scammed, um, have gotten played, what's so funny about it all is that many people who are in connection with a massive manipulator, due to the fact that the emotions have been invoked and things inside of them have been triggered that they've never felt before, or they've been duped or scammed so damn badly that they're embarrassed to let go of the manipulator, they will even find it difficult to pull away from the manipulator. Could you believe that? So even though, the person finds out that the situation is unhealthy, they've had, small losses, a lot of setbacks, for some reason or another, the victims of people who are around manipulators, they find it hard to let go. Could you believe that? And you know what? Manipulators, they're such masters of their craft that they understand the psychology with people. And they know, I mean, they have a trail of evidence of people that they pretty much burnt. But they know that even though they've burnt people, those same people are not even willing to let them go. I think that's sad. And I think the reason for that is because a manipulator, they was able to deeply dig for feelings and emotions and dreams. Again, that the victim has never ever felt or imagined, they can feel. And when you're dealing with the master manipulator, they do things to their victim that makes them feel like if they connect with this person, if they give this person money, um, if they sign certain documents, if they support certain causes, that in some way or another, the master manipulator, they put it in a way that it makes it feel like their lives are about to change. And it's always for the better. It's never for the worse. That's how the master manipulator gets you, because they always make it seem like it's for the better for you, when it's going to actually be a setback and it's going to be better for them. I think that's sad. And even though, the victims of master manipulators, they've lost their sanity, they lost their health, they lost their finances, and they know they've gotten duped due to the fact of all the things that I've explained in the beginning with the gaslighting, with the manipulation and the emotions. See, they have to get to your emotions. It's very important for them to find your weaknesses and to dig deep within the emotions. The victim of the manipulator, for some reason or another, they feel some type of empathy inside. And they have, feelings of guilt that they let themselves down, and they for some reason or another, it's like they feel like the manipulator is going to change and finally feel sorry for things that the manipulator has done to them. So I think that's another reason why they hold on. I think another reason why people who are victims of master manipulators hold on is because they want to see or experience or feel or hear about the day where the master manipulator is filled with regret or sorry about their actions. And if it's a financial loss, another reason why victims of manipulators stick on is because for some reason or another, they feel like the master manipulator is going to pay them back. Monies that was stolen, property that was stolen, sign back contracts that were pretty much manipulated. They were manipulated into signing off certain contracts to massive manipulators. The reason why victims are finding it hard to let go is because they think that master manipulators have empathy. And you have to know when you're dealing with a master manipulator or you're dealing with people who are in connections with master manipulators, know off top that manipulators lack empathy. They don't have feelings like you do or like the person did. That wasn't their goal. Their goal was not to fall in love. Their goal was not, to do anything of good for the people that they're manipulating. Their goal was to get everything that they want out the deal, whether, again, that be sex, money, or possession. That's their goal. And until victims can wake up and realize and disconnect the emotions from these master manipulators, that's the only way you're going to see people for who they are. That's the only way. And after all is said and done, and the victim starts to feel like, you know, this is what it is. I got duped. Understand when you're dealing with a massive manipulator. See, in the beginning, it felt fluffy and good. See, they always want you to feel fluffy and good in the beginning. But after dealing with a master manipulator, it's a guarantee that almost everybody who has been victims of gaslighting and master manipulation, almost all of them, 99.9% of them, will start to complain and talk about how extremely unsatisfied they are in their relationship. Whether it be friendship, whether it be love, whether it be business, they will complain about that. So they went from feeling really good, very extremely satisfied, to now feeling extremely unsatisfied. And then, victims of this, they have increased anxiety. They often feel nervous. They have an out of control mood, like they're always going through mood swings. Nobody ever knows, what moods they're in. Is because all of these things from the master manipulator has been invoked. And you know what? The sad part about it is that, a lot of individuals, they're not well versed, in this subject. They do lack intuition and they don't really understand the art of manipulation. But just like they say, when you go through shit and you feel duped and you're like, why did I go through this? Or, why did I experience such heartbreak? Why did I experience such loss? In a way, it's like a lesson. It's a lesson. So, God forbid, if you ever come across anything like this again, you'll know what to look for. And maybe you won't experience so much loss, experience so many setbacks, experience so much suffering when you're finally aware of these particular individuals. So, what do manipulators do? You want to know. Manipulators, they always ask a lot of questions. That's how you know you're dealing with a manipulator, because they'll start asking you a lot of questions. But you know what's so funny is that they'll find it very uncomfortable when those questions that they're asking you, you ask of them, then they start to become uneasy. Then they give you an excuse why you shouldn't be asking them those same questions. And the reason why they're asking these questions is because they want to gain as much information as possible from you. And you know what? Master manipulators, they're so crafty at their game that everything starts off basic, or everything seems basic. So you don't really know that you're getting lured in, because they'll start asking you basic questions. And it won't be like, what's your age? Are you married? Are you divorced? What school do you, it won't be in that in that chronicle order. It will be within conversations that you have. Or they may bring up something about themselves that they know is going to trigger a response from you. So for instance, they'll be like, well, I was married and I got a divorce, things didn't work. And then once you start talking about that, see, they make it seem like they're telling you about themselves, but they're really telling you about themselves so that you can tell them about yourself. And that's how they gather information over time. So like I said, when you're dealing with a master manipulator, it's never sharp to the point where you could say, okay, they're asking me a lot of questions, this is a master manipulator. Or they're very charismatic, this is a master manipulator. It's never ever like chronological order like that. It's always these soft cues. Okay, it's always like they're listening, they're caring, they want to know more about you than you know about them. And believe me, they want to know about you more than you know about them, so they know exactly what your weaknesses are. And once somebody finds out what your weaknesses are, they can easily trap you, get you in situations that you would not have never approve of. You would never agree to being spiritually abused like this. So understand, when you're dealing with a master manipulator, they will ask you questions about yourself. Okay? Um and the victim will often find themselves, after being asked these questions, um they will often find themselves always saying the word yes or okay all the time. And they will always say yes and okay to the point where they actually want to say no. They can't say no because they'll feel uncomfortable because they've always agreed or said yes or okay. And like I said, when you're dealing with manipulation, there's no way that I could put this even in a storyline, because there's no rhyme or reason to this. There's no cut and dry. There's nothing that you can stencil out of this. This is all charismatic. Like I said, everybody has a different formula that they're being introduced to. There's all these different words, there's all these different scenarios. So it's very, very hard to pinpoint a master manipulator, because everything is used differently. But I could tell you one thing, that normally the same words are used for the same people, no matter how you look at it. And even when a person doesn't want to say yes, the manipulator will nod their head yes sometimes in emotion, or use body language, or move with emotion towards yes. I can give you an example of somebody nodding their head yes or moving towards of emotion, where the victim is going to automatically, let's say yes. Let's say, for example, if you're in a relationship and you notice that your partner suggests going out, but you're not invited. How to pinpoint that you're dealing with a master manipulator, or somebody who wants you to agree yes when you really mean no, is that again, this is just a relationship scenario, okay? Um they'll tell you about the party way in advance, like weeks in advance, sometimes months in advance. So first they start to mentally prepare you for that party that they're going out to, okay? And then you'll start to see them, going to the cleaners, or buying an outfit, or doing things in a suggestive way, that they're preparing to go out, okay? Even though you don't agree, they're slowly preparing you for that yes, that you will agree for them to go out. Okay, so understand, everything is subtle, everything is slow, but they'll gradually get you to that point to agree or to say yes. So again, they told you about the party or the event weeks or months in advance. Then when it gets closer to that date, you start to see them buying outfits. And then before you know it, they're prepared for the party or the outing, and then they'll approach you with a kiss or a hug that will only warrant a yes or okay, you're leaving now. See, that's the gradual process of master manipulation. Is everything is gradual, but they first have to prepare you to that end point. So when you're dealing with a master manipulator, let's say when it comes down to scamming, um, they will first again try to get to know you, ask you a lot of questions, um, fluff up emotions. Then they'll start to tell you stories about their struggles. And they'll really highlight how fucked up their situation is. So after they've gotten a chance to know you, they know about your finances, they know what you're worth, you're either retired or not retired, have a good job, or whatever the situation is, they'll know that about you at first. Then they'll start to tell you about their situation, which is always going to be worse than your situation. Okay. And they'll always, incorporate that they're dreading about life, or, they're in a dangerous situation, or, the situation is so fucked up, they don't know what to do. And then without you saying, yes, I'm going to give you money, they have already triggered certain emotions within you, that you're now volunteering to give them money because you don't want to see them hurt. See, master manipulators, they know this. They know they have to charm. They know they have to make you feel good. They know that it's important for them to choose the right words. They have to make you feel sorry for them. And once you start feeling sorry for a master manipulator, they can pretty much get you to do whatever they want you to do without your mood is changing, that you're under analyzing, that you're no longer observing what's going on. And before you know it, you're signing off that check, you're giving away that money to somebody who pretty much doesn't work, not working as hard as you do, or doesn't deserve it because that money's or possessions for their comfort, for their liking. Like I said, you know what? It's really, really sad that people are going through this right now. It's really, really sad that people who are very good people, who are looking for comfort, who are looking for love, who are looking for, just companionship, and they're duped and they're played and they're gaslighted by people who come across as something that they've always been looking for, only to find out that they would never, ever agree to. If they only knew the truth, they would have never given their money away to that person. If they only knew the truth, they would have never signed their property over. They would have never signed certain contracts with people who made it seem like they were going to get one thing and lose everything. Master manipulation is an art, and it's a poison art. And it's an art that affects people on so many different levels. And the sad part about it all is that at the end, it's usually never in the victim's benefit. And I can tell you that when you're dealing with a master manipulator, they're not fast, they're not quick, sweet, and they take their time, and they're very crafty at knowing that they should never offend anyone or never make anybody feel offended, because they know if they make you feel offended or if they conjure up feelings of anger, they know that it's just going to be more of a challenge and they're going to have to put more time into getting whatever they want to get at that end goal. So a lot of people get scammed, a lot of people get duped. And it's very sad what's going on. And I think, and I really believe that, okay, don't teach people these skills in elementary. I understand that. But I believe that this should be a subject that should be taught in every high school. When you're like at the higher level, like 11th grade, 10th, 12th grade, things like that. When you're ready to step foot into society, when you're ready to start dealing with reality, these things should be taught. People should know what to look out for. People should pretty much embrace their intuition. Embrace your intuition, embrace that gut feeling. Stop ignoring it because that's the truth within. It doesn't have words to it. It doesn't probably make you feel good. See, the reason why a lot of people ignore their intuition is because it's a feeling that doesn't make them feel good. So people usually try to ignore things that don't make them feel good because they always want to feel good. And the master manipulator knows that. They know that people always want to feel good. And when you're dealing with a group of people or even a person who always wants to feel good, you can easily manipulate that person because you know their weaknesses. You know what they like. And once you start getting into that person's skin and going deep within that person and you know what they like, you can start triggering things in that particular person and start to fish line things what you want out of that person without them even realizing it, only when it's too late. So I think this is about it. I think we've talked about gaslighting. We've covered, various different subjects. I hope you guys got some pointers out of it. It off again, when you're dealing with the master manipulator, these are the type of people who are not running around like a little with a Halloween costume, like I'm the Grinch, or I'm Dracula, or these people don't look like that. They look sharp, they look clean, they look cute, they look nice, they look sexy. They got all the right words to say. They make you feel good. And this is the gloss over what's really going on the inside that you can't see only when it's too late. So you have to beware. Beware of people who ask you a lot of questions. Beware of people who want to know more about you than you know about them. Beware of people who want you to follow them, but they're not following other people. Beware of the person who wants to be looked at as a god, as a teacher, person of knowing all and you know nothing. Beware of these people. Beware of the person who makes you feel extremely special. Beware of these people who make you feel like you've never felt in your life before. It may feel good in the beginning, but the sad part is at the end, you'll feel extremely unsatisfied. All right, so I think we've talked about gaslighting and manipulation. I'm going to be doing another video. And we will be talking again. Talk to you later. Thank you for everybody who's listening. Later.